Here's where the federal government shutdown sits on day 23. Senators are expected to return to Capitol Hill today for a 13th vote on the government shutdown after a failed attempt yesterday, 54 to 46. The GOP-backed spending bill needs 60 votes to advance. Meanwhile, Wisconsin Republican Senator Ron Johnson put forward the Shutdown Fairness Act. Now, this would ensure that certain federal employees and military personnel are paid during the government shutdown rather than only after funding lapse is resolved. The funding lapse is resolved. Health insurance through the Affordable Care Act remains a financial lifeline for millions of Americans, but that affordability could soon change. New data from the Kaiser Family Foundation shows on average, Americans receiving ACA subsidies pay nearly $900 per year, or that's just $2.40 per day for Marketplace health insurance. Roughly 90% of Marketplace enrollees receive premium tax credits that lower monthly cost, a key reason coverage has remained within reach for many families. Now, if enhanced subsidies expire at the end of the year, the average annual payment could jump for millions of Americans to around $1,900 or more than $5 a day. With us now is a guest senior policy analyst for Kaiser Family Foundation, Emma Wagger. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Good morning.
All right. When we break it down to a few dollars a day, what does that really say about the affordability of the Affordable Care Act coverage for the average American family?
Well, premiums are very high, and they've been increasing every year, both in the Affordable Care Act market and in the employer market and overall. And the main reason for that is because the price of healthcare is just so high in the U.S.
What does the average cost about, when we talk about the average cost about $2.40, how does that actually compare to what people are paying before the ACA marketplace existed?
Well, people who receive their coverage in the individual market receive these government subsidies. So a lot of the time their income is, the percent of the income that they pay is capped at about 8.5% of their income by law. Mm-hmm. So that before the ACA, that was not the fact. So in general, people are paying less for individual coverage than they would have, and they have more protections.
Yeah. We've seen record ACA enrollment numbers in the past 2 years. What would you say is driving that growth?
I think a lot of people who realize that they could receive these enhanced subsidies, suddenly it's the most affordable option. So for a couple who are making $85K in DeKalb County, who are maybe both 60 years old, they're paying $602 a month right now for a benchmark silver premium. They're paying 8.5% of their income. Mm-hmm. However, in 2026, if these subsidies are allowed to expire, they're going to be suddenly facing about a $2,200 monthly payment for their premiums.
Yeah, that's significant. And so what's the conversation around Washington, with the possibility of enhancing subsidies permanently?
I can't predict what will happen, but as November 1st approaches and this open enrollment period approaches where people are going to be enrolling in their coverage for 2026, I think it's going to become a lot more real for people when they log in to their state-based marketplace, Georgia Access in Georgia, and they see all of a sudden the amount that they're going to be expected to pay, which is going to be significantly higher in a lot of cases. It's going to really make this issue very tangible and very real for a lot of families.
So what does that look like, right? What does it look like if we lose these subsidies, right? These middle income families, they don't qualify anymore. What does that look like for us?
Well, those families are going to have a lot of hard conversations to have. Do they need to change jobs? Does somebody in the family need to get a job that has employer-sponsored coverage? Or will they have to go without insurance? Some people may have to make that choice.
Yeah, for people shopping this fall for, what the most important thing, what's the most important thing they should be looking for before enrollment begins?
I think it's just very important to have a plan to understand where and why your coverage will be increasing, and to see if this is completely unaffordable for our family, what are our next steps going to be.
And finally, is there any advice that you would give for somebody who's anticipating this not being the case anymore?
Who's anticipating the subsidies expiring?
Yeah.
I think the only advice that I can really give is to, stay on top of the news and understand what's happening in Washington and why.
Yeah. Okay. Emma Wagger, thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate your insight today.
Thank you.